Whoa, that was a great dinner. Thanks, Nonie, for the invite.
Stop thanking me, woman. You know I love cooking and I love to eat. That eggplant dish you were raving about came from my husband, who also loves to cook. He taught me how to make that dish because his mother used to make it for their family.
Not just the eggplant, but the fish was fabulous. For a pescatarian like me who does not know how to cook well, it was brilliant.
Why, thank you.
My favorite, though, was the rice with the crispy, buttery, spicy crust.
Ah, this is the life just for tonight. We can relax, eat, drink, chat without any distractions. Hey, who wants a refill or I can mix something for you?
I would like to finish that last bit of wine and then I'm done. Thanks, Anita.
Some ice here, please.
I'm okay. I'm still nursing my soju.
Anyone else? A virgin colada for you, Nonie?
Yes, please. That reminds me of what's going around in my community. What's up with all this fear about not being a virgin?
Among Asians, you mean?
Yes, among Asians especially. Well, actually, I'm sure it's not limited to Asians.
Right. Also, most often, it's about females.
Those who are born with a vagina, I think.
Yes, so not so much female identified, but people with vaginas, right?
I guess. Anyway, I was wondering why virginity was valued so much. And what does virginity actually mean?
Here your drink, Nonie. Are you asking about women as property and therefore valued? Maybe you're thinking about penetration. Or did you mean chastity as in no sexual activity?
Of course, look who's getting all academic about it. Anita is now going to give us a lesson about body performative acts, Judith Butler, and...
Oh, Bennie, stop being so negative. You always...
Kidding. I'm just kidding.
Can we go back to what I'd like to get your opinions on? I just want to know how much all of us know about this thing called virginity, its history, and what is worse to people. Maybe discussing chastity, if that's what virginity means.
My suggestion is to start with the definition of virginity from each one of us. We should try to give different ones, no?
That's a good idea. Thanks, Mona. Who wants to go first? No copycats.
Well, in my opinion, note this is based on fact. Virginity is not having had sexual intimacy of any kind with another living being. With females, it's more than just a lack of hymen because some people are born with very little hymenal tissue, while others may have hymens that cover the entire vaginal opening, or the hole in their hymen is very small, requiring a surgical procedure.
I agree with Bennie, and I would question virginity also in the context of masturbation. So, a hymen, if we consider it symbolic of virginity, can also be stretched open by putting something in your vagina, such as a finger or sex toy.
You know, in some cultures, a woman's virginity is tested before her first wedding night with an older married woman putting her finger in the bride-to-be's vagina to check. I wonder whether that would make the bride-to-be a non-virgin then? Okay, who's going next? Don't think too hard.
I don't believe in such a thing as the first time, because there can be many first times. Each partner is a new experience. But Nonie, hymens naturally have a hole big enough for period blood to come out, and for a person to use tampons comfortably. On the other hand, a girl could also lose her hymen by riding a bike or doing energetic exercise.
Yes, but in some communities, I hear women are trying to stop their teen daughters from using tampons or period cups because they want to keep their hymen intact. Be right back.
Well, while your hymen can be stretched open the first time your vagina is penetrated, causing some pain or bleeding, this does not happen to everyone.
Like a virgin, touched for the very first time. But you made me feel, yeah, you made me feel shiny and new. Ooh.
Ooh, that's 80s Madonna for you.
I got you all more wine. It's here if anyone wants some.
Back to you, Nonie. Give us your 2 cents worth.
A Madonna song reminds me of a sex worker in an 18th century porn novel who was faking her virginity to full customers who were prepared to pay big money for a virgin. Honestly, you're all saying what I should have thought about. My 2 cents worth? I believe virginity is a commodity, in some ways similar to facelifts and breast implants. And you know, the business of virginity, which is as old as humanity, has now gone virtual. Have you all heard of virginity auctions?
Yep, the bidders for one American teen were international bigwigs. I remember, including some Hollywood actor. I think the girl said something about it being emancipating. Now, social media influencers are probably doing the same thing. Someone was making the offer in order to raise some funds for COVID.
I love this conversation. So then, what about hymens, for instance? Is it, sorry for being crude, a big issue over a little tissue?
Who says that? Some boomer?
I don't know. Well, actually, yes. My boomer grandpa, very progressive in his thoughts, but maybe not so much in his words.
I'm done with my wine. I'm going to get some water. Anyone want anything from the kitchen?
No
No
thanks.
Hey all, I just remembered something. Mona's latest poem is based on Conference of the Birds, and it's connected to what we are chatting about. Go on, Mona, recite it for everyone.
Yes, please. You always have a wonderful way of telling stories.
Thanks, Bennie. Conference of the Birds was by a Sufi poet. I call mine Spirit of the Yonis. Here goes. Once upon a time, there was a forum of Yonis who met to look for their queen. The youngest of them was the wisest as well. She said the answers in the gene. There were 30 of them, some bearded, some not, some loose-lipped and eager to talk. Some shyer types wore hoodies and muffs, while the radical one had a mohawk. I sat with them all. It was a carpet of fur. As we flew through a sinful land, I was a born-again bush of virginal ground, tilling and fulfilling with one trusted hand. The oldest was steering with split ends as guide. The merkin was peering ahead. 27 of us were staring above for the sign that would change to red. One waxed lyrical about her Brazilian. Her friend was a fiery crotch. Tresses entwined with shaven mounds, we were all what they call top-notch. Over mountains and valleys, we swiftly sailed, skimming bare branches, blossoms, and trees. We could smell the heady scent of the brine, hear the gushing sound of the seas. We came upon a clear stretch of water, with leader rippling on a crack. We all tumbled out and gazed over the edge and recognized our eyes smiling back. So each one of us was royal blood. That pool was the other half of Jean. Regal ran in our roots and our curls. We rule ourselves. We are queen.
That was fascinating, Mona. I love it. It's all about pubic hair, huh? It took me a few lines to figure that out. So what's the male equivalent of a hymen?
Can we not discuss males for now? I mean, it is the patriarchy that brought us to this discussion.
Actually, although typically applied to women, virginity is also applied to men, in both cases specifically denoting absence of sexual experience. However, as one young American feminist says, valuing virginity means putting morality between a woman's legs.
I think I know whom you're talking about. She's also coined something she calls a virginity movement. Yes. So then if we are talking about sexual experience, what is making out supposed to mean? Or as my mother used to say, no petting, no necking.
Well, that's so old school. There are more cool ways now of saying virginity is passé. But seriously, I have also heard twice married women worry about their daughter's virginity. So ridiculous.
Not so ridiculous if you understand the repercussions for women who have to prove virginity on their wedding night by bleeding on the sheaths. The hymen has major cultural significance and underscore gender inequality around the world, mind you, as a perceived biological indicator of virginity. The myths around the hymen and virginity had led to the medical cosmetic complex catering to hymenoplasty, the hymen industrial complex, so to speak.
So-called revirgination surgical procedures.
Anyone here know how hymenoplasty is done?
Actually, hymenoplasty is not the same as revirgination. Hymenoplasty puts back the torn hymen, but revirgination is done to make full changes in female genitalia. Hymen restoration through hymenoplasty and tightening the vaginal vault through vaginoplasty.
Oh, yeah. I've heard about that. Husband stitch?
Where did you hear that?
A husband stitch or daddy stitch is an extra stitch given after tearing from vaginal burns, supposedly to tighten the vagina for the pleasure of a sexual partner. I read this great short story called The Husband Stitch by Carmen Maria Machado, I think. So I looked it up online. Oh, and by the way, there was a recent news item about a Utah doctor who told a 14-year-old's boyfriend after the delivery that he did the husband stitch for him when sewing her up.
That's so messed up. I know women who have suffered FGC. By the way, that's female genital cutting. And later their husbands have become upset about the pain both parties continue to suffer. And all of them have had to have C-section deliveries.
Do you know that in some countries, you can buy an artificial hymen as well as the scent of a young bride on her wedding night? I suspect scent means intimate smells. It's rather complicated though, because we then have to consider which class of women has access to such products. What is oppressive and what is liberatory? And what about other cosmetic surgeries, such as breasts, and penis enhancements, liposuctions, and facelifts?
I have heard about hymen repair kits that you can use at home. Apparently, these kits have artificial hymens wrapped in natural plastic bags or pills that contain red dye that can be used as fake blood. One has to insert it before intercourse with the person whom they want to show that they are a virgin.
Yes, but somehow the valuing of an intact vagina makes me shudder. Not only because of what this means to the agencies of female bodies and the society's expectations, but also of the internalizing of these values and the punishment for transgressions. If you remain a virgin, you are of good character. The cycle of human violence.
Virginity shaming is really another form of violence against women.
We also know that the concept of hymens and female virginity gets complicated when it comes to trans people. In fact, Hymen or Hymenaeus, the Greek god of marriage, was supposed to possess such a delicate beauty that he was mistaken for a young girl. According to one tradition, Hymenaeus saved a number of young women from pirates and afterwards was praised in all bridal songs called hymeneal songs.
At the university I work at, I recently had an OBGYN come in to talk to a student group about sex, gender, and virginity. I mean, many of these seemingly self-confident young folks were clueless about where a hymen was, although they easily throw out terms like cisgender male and ace and abro.
The hymen's like a scrunchie, stretching out and in, so while it seems untidy, it's also good protection against what, you ask? Was tucked out of sight, safe inside and under. Sadly, becomes everyone's right, and the owners wonder about what you ask. Why is a membrane seen to define a person? Isn't it just insane? And very likely to worsen. To what extent, you ask? When all trans folks face an additional worry about incoming jokes that turn out brutal in a hurry, I say, woman, you say, what's that? I say, woman, you say,
What's
What's
that?
that?
I say, woman, you say,
What's
What's
that?
that?
thanks all. Not as good as Mona's.
Oh my, this is such a fab femfest and so creative. I am worried about my daughter though. She was recently prattling on about DTFs and BDEs, and I was like, what the heck is that? And then she told me, and I had to have the talk with her about sexual responsibility. I mean, is all the hoopla about virginity really? Or is it about controlling female bodies? I think my daughter was kind of smirking during our conversation.
Remember Britney Spears and other celebrity virgins of the 19s and 2000s with their purity rings? Even the Jonas Brothers brag about their wearing those rings. And then Miley Cyrus came to the conclusion that she needed to deflower herself after her career as Hannah Montana began flailing. Poor Britney, I think Justin Timberlake apologized years later for a radio interview in which she said, okay, yeah, I did it, about first-time sex with Britney.
OMG, yes. I think Brittany tried to explain that away, saying she did it because she loved him, and so she was justified in breaking her vow. She did say also that she was heartbroken about his betrayal by making it public. I feel really sorry for her. A self-imposed virginity based on the idea that for women, sex is only acceptable in natural and romantic love.
Exactly. And to further that idea in cultures where marriage is not as seen as the beginning of a sexual relationship, but love is, for women especially. Oh, Anita, can you give me a refill, please? That was delicious, by the way.
Sure.
Yeah, and women lose virginity, but for males, it's usually seen as a gain. But really, it is the objectification of the female body. And so we go back to who owns and then who polices that body. In Western cultures, just about 2 centuries ago, women who enjoyed sex were considered deviant. That was a time that awful word, nymphomaniac, was coined. And stereotyping Black women as hypersexual, remember that Hottentot Venus? It was also extended to Asian women who were compared to geishas, who themselves were not actually prostitutes. But then in 20th century America began to see purity balls, where young women pledged their virginities to their fathers for safekeeping until their marriage. I mean, T.I. the rapper recently shared in a podcast that he had been taking his 18-year-old daughter for a yearly medical checkup to ensure that her hymen was intact. Oh, how we absorb patriarchal views.
Are we sharing about when we lost our virginity then?
I'm okay with it. I got married early at 20 in my home country, and my husband was my first. It wasn't all that, I can tell you.
Well, I'm gay and I've never been with a man. So,
Okay, so my so-called first partner was my cousin.
No.
Hold on, he was my cousin, but we were supposed to get married. My family and his family. By the way, he's my father's sister's son. We're all in agreement that, and frankly, in my 18 years old mind, I thought he was hot. He left for a job in Persian Gulf, and we expected him to return for our engagement, but he took off for Europe and then called and told me he was gay. He was very apologetic, and by then, I don't care. We are friends now. Of course, we never told our parents, right?
That's good to know that you didn't marry your cousin.
It happens a lot in many Asian cultures, Mona. In mine, it is quite common.
I lost my virginity to my first boyfriend, who also was a virgin. I'm not sure whether any of you know if your firsts were virgins as well. It was quite an experience because we were 15 doing it in his friend's bedroom because his friend was rich and living in a big house with housekeepers and chauffeurs. I was really naive and I just wanted it to be over with quickly because I was afraid someone would walk in on us. And that would have been horrible.
I'm not sure I want to share today if you all are okay with it. I am just not comfortable doing that.
Oh, of course, Dalia. This is all voluntary, and by the way, this should stay here. So, who's up for dessert?
I am.
Great. Let's all go back to the table.